Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates and notifications.
Hello everyone, welcome to Sleuth Crime Stories. This story takes place in Connecticut, which is located in the northeastern United States, across the strait from Long Island. The state has a rectangular shape that runs east-west, and 3.6 million people live here, densely populated. Connecticut is one of the states with the highest per capita income in the United States. On July 21, 2023, a federal court in Connecticut ruled that criminal TV expert Henry Lee was responsible for fabricating evidence in a murder case in 1985. The case led to two men spending decades in prison. The local media, Hartford Courant, reported that Lee faced tens of millions of dollars in compensation, and the specific amount of compensation was decided by the jury. Lee came to study in the United States at the age of 26 and has been engaged in forensic work for more than 60 years. He participated in the investigation of more than 8,000 criminal cases in various states and around the world. He was called the Chinese Sherlock Holmes and Detective God by people and received more than 800 honors. Lee, now already 84 years old, is honorary chairman of the Connecticut Science Information Center, a lifetime professor of forensic science at the University of New Haven, and other positions. No one would have thought that an old case would put Lee into a perjury storm. If the two young men were innocent back then, it would mean that they had been wrongfully imprisoned for more than 30 years. Henry Lee is facing an unprecedented crisis. So, what happened in that case back in the day? Did Henry Lee really fabricate evidence? Let's start the story from a winter day in 1985. December 2, 1985, was a Monday in New Milford, Litchfield County, Connecticut. Snow was falling heavily and it was bitterly cold. Thanksgiving had passed just a few days earlier, and after a day's work, people had returned home early to spend the evening with their families. As the night grew late, everyone settled into their dreams. At 4:50 a.m., while most residents were still asleep, the local emergency call center received a distress call. It was from a woman who tearfully reported that her father, Everett Carr, had been stabbed at home and the situation was dire. On the phone, she exclaimed in panic, "Oh my God, he has a knife!" Upon receiving the call, the police department promptly dispatched officers to the scene. It was a two-story house not far from the neighbors. Several officers cautiously entered the house, and the air was filled with the scent of blood as they moved down the hallway. What they witnessed would haunt them for life. Everett Carr, a 65-year-old man, lay in a pool of blood in the hallway on the first floor. He was dressed in a sweatshirt on the upper body and shorts on the lower body, appearing as though he had been attacked while sleeping. The room was splattered with blood, covering the floor, walls, and ceiling. To avoid disturbing potential evidence, the police erected a makeshift bridge to approach the victim carefully. Beneath the victim, they found a knife handle, but no blade. 2 sets of realistic fingerprints and 40 fingerprint impressions were collected from inside the house. These fingerprints could belong to suspects or friends and family of the homeowner, but they were either too smudged or incomplete, making them nearly impossible to match. Apart from this, there weren't many valuable leads. The forensic results revealed that the victim, Everett Carr, had 27 stab wounds, a severed jugular vein, and head injuries consistent with blunt force trauma. The cause of death was determined to be severe blood loss, but due to the technology available at the time, the exact time of death could only be estimated between 2.5 to 3 hours after the last meal. Such a heinous homicide was exceedingly rare in the local area. The police lacked extensive experience in handling such cases, so some state personnel were urgently dispatched to assist in the investigation, including Dr. Henry Lee, who was then the director of the Connecticut Forensic Science Laboratory. That night, he arrived at the scene to conduct chemical tests and assist in reconstructing the crime scene. However, Dr. Lee was only providing assistance, and the lead investigation was still under the jurisdiction of the New Milford Police. In the bedroom of the house where Carr lived, the wardrobe and drawers were in a mess. The victim's daughter told the police that some things were missing from the house, including some clothes, a video recorder, coins, and some jewelry. Based on the scene, the police believed that this was a case of burglary and murder. They speculated that Carr was resting in his bedroom that night and found someone breaking into the house to steal. He hurriedly got up to check and ran into the intruder in the hallway. A fight broke out between them. As a result, Carr was killed by the other party. The victim. Carr was 65 years old this year, a retired car driver, living with his daughter in this two-story house. Carr lived on the first floor and his daughter lived on the second floor. When the police first arrived at the scene, they saw no one else except the victim Carr and his daughter. The daughter told the police that she went back to her bedroom on the second floor early last night and she could hear her father's coughing downstairs all the time, but she didn't think much and fell asleep. At midnight, she was thirsty and went downstairs to drink water, but saw her father's tragic situation in the hallway on the first floor. As for what she encountered, the daughter said she did not know. The fact that the police arrived there right away was a bit strange. When the crime occurred, Carr had a fierce fight with someone, which would inevitably make noise. Since the owner's daughter could hear her father's coughing downstairs in her bedroom on the second floor, she must have heard the fighting. But the owner's daughter didn't hear it. In addition, the owner's daughter said she had a knife in her hand when she called the police, which means she saw the other person. But now she can't tell the person's shape and appearance, and it looks like she's hiding something. To determine the exact time of the crime, the police asked the owner's daughter again when her father had last driven. But she still couldn't answer. Under the heavy pressure of the police, she finally told the truth. It turned out that the owner's daughter left home at 9 o'clock last night and went out to meet a man. And that person was not her boyfriend. Between 4 and 4:30 in the morning, the owner's daughter returned home and found her father killed in the hallway on the first floor. The reason why she lied to the police was because she didn't want her boyfriend to know that she had cheated on him. After the case occurred, the police visited the neighbors around Carr's house and found something. 2 neighbors said that between 12:10 and 12:30 at midnight that day, they heard a car engine sound. The sound lasted for 20 minutes. One of the neighbors said that after hearing the noise, he went to the window and took a look. He saw a car parked on the road near Carr's house. The car had a loud engine, 2 taillights were far apart and the distance was spacious. He was impressed. After getting the clue, the police began to check for similar cars in the local and surrounding areas. As a result, they found out that 3 days ago, there was a car missing report. A 1973 Buick Regal car was stolen, and the car's appearance was very similar to the suspicious car that the neighbors saw. The police believed that the person who made it might be a can, so they checked from some known thieves in the area. After inquiring and investigating, they had a harvest in the afternoon of that day. In Danbury, 20 kilometers away from where they had an idea, the police found a drug dealer named Stanley. He said that recently there were 2 young people who were responsible for burglary, one named Birch, 18 years old, and the other named Henning, 17 years old, both of whom were addicts. 2 days after the crime, the police questioned one of the 2, Henning. He told the police that on November 29th, because it was Thanksgiving weekend, Birch wanted to visit his mother, so the 3 of them hitchhiked to Birch's mother's house in New Hampshire. On December 1st, they returned to the home of drug dealer Stanley in Danbury and stayed until 2 a.m. before leaving. Then they got on another hitchhike and arrived in Stamford 7 hours later, which was already morning. As for the murder that occurred locally, Henning said he knew nothing about it. The victim Carr's neighbor had said that he heard the engine sound between 12:10 and 12:30 at midnight, which was also the time of the crime determined by the police. According to Henning's statement, they were still in Danbury, 20 kilometers away, at that time, and not in New Milford. It didn't match the time of the crime. But this was just his one-sided word, and the police didn't believe it. Then, the investigators showed Henning a photo of the victim Carr and asked if he knew him. He looked at the photo and didn't deny it on the spot. He said he looked familiar and should have seen him in town. During the process, Henning asked the girl if the person in the photo had any tattoos. This seemingly ordinary sentence made the police more suspicious of him, because Carr did have tattoos on his body, but they were not exposed normally. When Carr was killed, he only wore shorts on his lower body so the tattoos could be seen. Then, the police questioned Henning's partner Birch. His statement was roughly the same as Henning's, but the difference was that he admitted that he stole a Buick car from a car repair shop. Then, the police questioned Henning's girlfriend, who said that the three of them only returned to Stamford that morning. This was consistent with Henning's statement. But then she changed her statement and said that the three of them had returned to Stamford around midnight. The police believed that Henning's girlfriend changed her key statement because she was guilty of covering up Birch and Henning's crimes. Based on the clues they had, the police made a guess. 3 days before Carr was killed, Birch, Henning and Henning's girlfriend stole a 1973 Buick Regal car from a car repair shop in Brookfield. Because it was Thanksgiving weekend, the three of them drove the stolen car to Birch's mother's house in New Hampshire. On the way, the car's muffler was damaged in the snow, and the engine became very loud. On the night of December 1st, they returned to Connecticut, but did not go home separately, but went to the drug dealer Stanley's house. The three of them often went there to buy contraband, and also sold some stolen goods to each other. After leaving Stanley's house, they sent Henning's girlfriend back to her home in Stamford. The time was around midnight. Birch and Henning continued to drive around the local area, looking for a suitable target, and finally chose to enter Carr's house to steal, but they were discovered, and they killed Carr. In the subsequent interrogations, Birch and Henning tried hard to deny any involvement in the murder, but they never blamed each other, to get rid of it. To clear their own suspicion, the two also confessed the hiding place of the stolen Buick car. At the time of the crime, there were bloodstains everywhere in the house. If the two were the murderers, there might be traces in the car. According to the address given by the two, the police found the Buick car near an abandoned reservoir. The car was in a mess, with things thrown around, garbage food, blankets, clothes, and some electronic products. But after checking the whole car, no bloodstains were found. The police even drained the water from the nearby reservoir, trying to find more evidence, but found nothing. Although the police had no direct evidence of the two's crime, in a previous interrogation process, Birch had a seizure when looking at the scene photos and fell from his chair. After that, he also pointed to an area outside the photo and said that it was the bathroom, and that position was indeed the bathroom. So intuition told the police that Birch must have been there that night, otherwise he would not know the layout of the room so clearly. On the night of the crime, Dr. Henry Lee found 2 towels in the sink of the bathroom on the 2nd floor when he inspected the scene. One of them had a spot on it. Lab tests confirmed the stains as blood but couldn't ID the source. Police suspected Birch and Henning changed clothes after the crime, hence no blood on them or in the car. They likely cleaned up in a 2nd-floor bathroom, leaving blood on towels. This case worried the town as Christmas neared. Police focused on Birch and Henning as suspects. While murder evidence was lacking, they couldn't deny the car theft. So, they arrested them. State police searched for murder-related evidence. Birch and Henning ended up in Manson Youth Institution. They had separate cells but made close friends. Unexpectedly, Birch's cellmates later told police that he confessed to killing someone. Meanwhile, Henning, behind bars, cried to his grandmother and best friend, insisting he was innocent. The police questioned them, and shockingly, they turned on him. They revealed Henning had confessed in a phone call that he and an accomplice broke into a house to steal, and the accomplice killed Carr, a 65-year-old homeowner, and his dog. Henning claimed he did nothing. Armed with this key testimony, the police arrested both on murder suspicions. 4 years later, they faced separate trials in a Connecticut court, starting with Henning. He was charged with second-degree murder. During the trial, the prosecution presented the witnesses' testimonies. In Henning's account, he mentioned a dog being killed, but Carr's family didn't have one. In Henning's defense, his lawyer argued that his description of a dog situation indicated he didn't know the truth. They also presented a test report from a former FBI expert, which revealed that one set of bloodstains at the crime scene measured 7.5 to 9 yards. However, both Birch and Henning had shoe sizes above 11 yards, which didn't match the shoe size at the scene. Despite numerous bloodstains at the crime scene, investigators found no biological traces in the stolen car matching them. To explain this, the prosecution relied on the testimony of Dr. Lee Chang-yu, director of the Connecticut Forensic Science Laboratory. He stated that the attack involved non-cutting splatter, suggesting no obstacles between the victim and the wall. This indicated the possibility of the murderer's clothes being stained with blood. Dr. Lee presented slides in court, one of which showed 2 towels by the bathroom sink, one of them with a spot on it. Lee Chang-yu said that he believed that the spot on the towel was blood through his experiment. It is worth noting that in the late 1980s, criminal forensic technology was not advanced, and it was impossible to accurately analyze the composition of the spot on the towel. The first case in the world to use DNA technology was the Colin Pitchfork case that occurred in England in 1986. The second type of technology provided a powerful tool for identifying murderers for the subsequent criminal justice system. When the case occurred, it was the initial stage of DNA technology, and the technology was not mature, so it was impossible to classify and test the spot on the towel at that time. Based on Lee Chang-yu's conclusion, the prosecution believed that the blood on the towel had been transferred by the assailant while cleaning at the sink. There hasn't been a publicly disclosed detailed inspection report, but neither the defense nor the jury requested to see the report. Objectively speaking, the stains on the towel cannot be considered the key evidence for the conviction in this case. The crucial evidence is that Carl's neighbor heard a car engine and saw a Buick car between 12:10 a.m. and 12:30 a.m., connecting that car to Penny, who admitted to stealing the car twice. Additionally, Henry's girlfriend confirmed that they were back in the area during that time, and both of them had a series of conditions. Therefore, the jury firmly believed that Penny and Birch were the culprits behind Carl's murder. After a week-long trial and deliberation, the Connecticut Fairfield Superior Court pronounced the defendants guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced Penny to 55 years in prison. In another trial 2 months later, Corning was also found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 50 years in prison. Thus, this case came to a conclusion. Fast forward to 2008, 23 years after the incident, Birch and Henry are still serving their sentences in prison. Throughout these years, they have consistently maintained their innocence and continuously sought legal avenues for appeal, but all have been rejected due to insufficient evidence. In the past year, they learned of a breakthrough in DNA technology and jointly penned an appeal to authorities, requesting a retest of the towel used as evidence in their case. The Justice Department granted their plea, setting the stage for an unexpected twist. Laboratory results unveiled that the brown stains on the towel were not blood but inorganic substances. This revelation contradicted the bloodthirsty narrative once put forth by forensic expert Lee Chang-yu. With this new evidence, the case is slated for reopening, sparking a furor. Remarkably, several key eyewitnesses have now either revised or revoked their previous testimonies. Among them, Henry's former girlfriend altered critical details about their return time. Initially believed to be between 12:10 a.m. and 12:30 a.m., she now asserts they didn't reach Stardale until around 1 a.m. She cites alleged police threats as the reason for her earlier deception, a not uncommon occurrence. Another close friend of Corning, a witness, also claims police influence at the time, implying that non-cooperation would have led to a harsher sentence for Corning. To reduce the sentences of black slaves, collaboration with Henry's grandmother was initiated. This involved providing testimony based on police-provided information. Additionally, Birch's cellmates retracted their previous testimonies, admitting they had lied. 1. Robert Perugini claimed Officer Bao coerced him. Andrew Osif took charge of the Carl case in 1986 after learning of Perugini's favorable conditions at Manson Youth Prison, preventing a transfer to a dangerous facility. In exchange for false testimony, Perugini cooperated. Over 30 years later, Henning and Birch were paroled in July 2018 and 2019, respectively. In 2020, the Connecticut Litchfield Superior Court dropped their murder charges. In the present year, Henning and Birch, aged 52 and 53, stood outside the court in black and white t-shirts bearing the words "Pavilion Case." Their embrace with loved ones spoke of enduring injustice. If they weren't the culprits, who was? Suspicion lingered on Carr's daughter, Diana. Investigative records later revealed $1,000 at the crime scene, suggesting a staged attempted robbery. Diana's testimony raised eyebrows. She discovered her father's lifeless body, but delayed reporting it for 20 minutes. In subsequent years, while cohabiting with a boyfriend, Diana erupted in heated disputes, even uttering chilling words like, "I want to kill you like I killed my father." A mysterious break-in further heightened suspicions, causing her boyfriend to flee in fear. When he was tidying up, he found a knife blade that was 15 inches long in the basement, with no handle. Also, a forensic expert thinks that the evidence found at the crime scene might belong to Carr's daughter. Although there are many suspicious points on her body, the police seem to have never doubted her. However, she has already died. Maybe some mysteries will never be solved. In 2002, Birch and Henning were released. In 2012, several police officers and a forensic expert filed a lawsuit against him, seeking compensation for their mistakes in the case. Media reports highlighted the forensic expert's testimony regarding a bathroom towel as a key factor in the wrongful judgment. While some evidence was later overturned, other crucial findings emerged. An international peace lawyer and their team conducted tests on the bloodstains and blood found in the bathroom, revealing unidentified DNA that possibly belonged to a woman, hinting at the real killer. The regional federal court judge noted the absence of video or written records confirming the expert's bloodstain reaction tests on the towel. Current DNA tests showed no bloodstains on the towel, contradicting the expert's claims during the 1998 investigation when he was a police officer. In 1998, as a police officer, the forensic expert confirmed bloodstains at the crime scene. He emphasized that advancements in forensic science shouldn't invalidate past findings. In 2019, during an interview with a Huasheng Daily reporter, Li Changyu responded to the towel testing results. He mentioned that 30 years ago, they conducted tests, and at that time, there were organic chemical reactions. It's normal that after 30 years, the testing may not find the same results. Physical evidence is difficult to preserve, and you can't doubt the testing from 30 years ago just because it can't be found now. It's worth noting that, apart from this case, Li Changyu is also suspected of providing false testimonies regarding evidence in several other cases. For instance, in the 1984 David Weinberg case, Li Changyu detected human blood on a knife, but it was later confirmed to be from an animal. In 1985, in another case, Li Changyu identified the victim's blood on the soles of sports shoes, which was later found to be a mixture with DNA from more than one person, none of whom were the victim. The recent revival of these cases raised questions for Li Changyu, who attributed their resurgence to growing anti-Chinese sentiments in the United States. His prominent role in forensic science made him a target. Li stressed that facing opposition when testifying for either the prosecution or defense doesn't equate to wrongdoing. His achievements reflected his credibility. In July 2004, a Connecticut federal court found Li Changyu responsible for fabricating evidence in a 1985 murder case. This led to trials for him and several police officers, with part of the plaintiff's charges against Li receiving summary judgment. The media accused him of perjury, shedding light on the wrongful imprisonment of two innocent individuals, plunging Li into an unprecedented crisis. On July 26, Li Changyu issued a formal statement to defend his reputation, presenting photographic evidence of the preserved towel with crucial evidence to prove he hadn't fabricated evidence. Upon learning of the court's ruling on Mr. Doe and Mr. Henning's convictions, I am disheartened. In 1985, the Connecticut Major Crime Squad assigned us to investigate the Carl murder case. As the head of the Forensic Science Laboratory, my team and I were dispatched to the crime scene on December 2, 1985, for chemical testing and initial crime scene reconstruction. We conducted exhaustive examinations, including fingerprints, footprints, and biological evidence, covering various areas, including the upstairs bathroom, sink, and towels. During our investigation, we noticed a faint red pattern on the upstairs bathroom towel and some spots in the sink. To test for the presence of blood, we applied tetramethylbenzidine, TMB, a chemical reagent commonly used in the 1980s. The pattern on the towel and certain sink spots showed a positive chemical reaction. Detectives from the Major Crime Squad collected liquid samples from the towel and sink, sealing them in separate evidence bags with evidence tape. These items were then stored in the evidence room for reasons that remain unknown. I did not personally participate in any subsequent criminal investigations related to this case. The towel was not sent to the laboratory for definitive blood testing at that time. I am a forensic scientist and merely presented my scientific findings in court. I am not responsible for determining which evidence is introduced or for questioning witnesses during the trial. That is not within my purview. Records, evidence collection, and on-site photography continued until December 2, 1985, well after my initial investigation. It's important to note that Mr. Birch and Mr. Henning were only considered suspects at this point. My scientific investigation had concluded before their suspicion arose. I was invited by the state prosecutor to testify about the chemical tests I conducted as part of the crime scene analysis. I had no motive to fabricate evidence. The fact that no blood was found on the towel 20 years later doesn't negate the possibility of a positive blood test during the initial examination. Biological evidence naturally degrades over time and under unfavorable conditions, a well-established scientific reality. Drawing illogical conclusions to fabricate evidence contradicts scientific principles and lacks reasonable basis. In addition, a small amount of evidence resembling bloodstains may have been consumed during the testing process or fallen off the surface of the towel. While reviewing the case materials I have on hand, I discovered an evidence tag affixed to the evidence bag containing the towel. The copy of the label clearly states, Exhibit 16 seized on date, label 2nd August 1985, time 23:05. With a description of a white towel with pink and green, unidentifiable patterns, bearing what appears to be bloodstains, located on the second-floor bathroom sink shelf. Please refer to the attached image. This evidence tag explicitly indicates that the Special Investigations Unit and laboratory personnel found bloodstains on the bathroom towel at the scene. This blood-stained towel was collected and sealed at the scene on December 2, 1985, at 23:05. This is clear and direct evidence demonstrating that I did not fabricate evidence. The towel was tested on December 2, 1985, at 23:05, confirming the presence of bloodstains on it and was collected at the scene. On July 31, 2023, Lee Chung-yu, who was embroiled in a perjury controversy, met with reporters in Los Angeles to respond to the ruling of the Regional Federal Court, marking his first appearance since the incident. During the press conference, Lee Chung-yu discussed the details of the investigation he and his colleagues conducted at the crime scene 38 years ago on the night of December 2, 1985, including displaying photos of on-site tests, the towel with a positive reaction, the sink, and evidence tags, among other pieces of evidence. He emphasized that scientific investigations at the crime scene had been completed long before he and the other individual were named suspects, and he had no motive or reason to fabricate evidence. Furthermore, he considered the allegations against him to be an insult. He is neither a detective nor a deity and could not predict when the police would arrest and prosecute the two suspects. On that day, Lee Chung-yu also addressed previous controversial cases he had been involved in, including the 2003 murder of actress Lana Clarkson and the 319 shooting case. He believed that, just like those previous contentious cases, the truth would ultimately come to light in this case as well. Regarding the judgment of the Federal District Court on July 21, 2003, Lee Chung-yu did not provide an immediate response. Connecticut Attorney General William Tong will defend Lee Chung-yu and the police detectives. A spokesperson stated that they disagree with Judge Bolden's ruling and will appeal. It is reported that this case will go to trial in October 2023, and more details will be disclosed as the trial begins. In the justice system, the principle of presumed innocence is based on a common belief that no one should be presumed guilty before a formal trial. This applies to both the two defendants in the Carl case, and especially to the alleged perjury by Lee Chung-yu. The legal system is a complex one that requires ample evidence and thorough investigation to uncover the truth. Lee Chang-yu, like any ordinary person, deserves this right. We can't determine his guilt solely based on media reports. Sometimes, one-sided evidence may not fully reflect the true events. Furthermore, whether the stains on that towel are bloodstains, and whether the two defendants were genuinely involved in the murder, do not have a direct cause and effect relationship. Did Lee Chang-yu commit perjury? Through rational thinking and maintaining an objective stance, everyone has their own perspective. While it's contentious, we believe that in the near future, this case will surely be resolved. That's all.
Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates and notifications.